So welcome everyone, it's good to see you. So it's the last class for quite a while. And the topic of this week is people-pleasing and self-esteem. So today it's going to be about self-esteem. So self-esteem has various levels. You can have a low self-esteem, you can have a very healthy, good, positive self-esteem, the way you regard yourself, the way you see yourself. So I think we can start with the very basic level, the very basic question: what is low self-esteem, or what is high self-esteem? What is self-esteem? Simply means that, in my opinion, it is a way of respecting yourself or inspiring yourself leads to higher self-esteem. If you do things that you would respect, that you would deem to be good, empowering, uplifting, and if you yourself doing them, then you're creating positive self-esteem, good self-esteem. On the other hand, if you're disappointing yourself consistently, then you create a low self-esteem. Many people are consistently busy disappointing themselves. So for example, you say something and then you don't do it. That's a very common thing, isn't it? We say, okay, tomorrow I'll get up at 6:30 a.m. and I'm doing some meditation, starting the day in a good way. Then tomorrow it's 5 a.m., the alarm goes off and you decide to just turn around and, skip it. Just sleep a little bit more. If you do that, you actually destroy your self-esteem a little bit each time. You're hurting yourself. If you do not follow through with what you say, every time you hurt yourself. So if you are not sure whether you are able to do something or not, don't say that you will. It's very simple. But it's a very important practice. If you're not sure that you will make an appointment or not, you might not be able to come, say that. If you're not sure whether someone else has said something because of a certain motivation, don't say it. Instead, first ask that person that you're talking about, because it will eat away your self-esteem. You're disappointing yourself by saying things or assuming things to be true that you do not really know to be true. And we do that quite a lot. We repost things on Facebook that we don't have really checked. Is it really true? Is it really valid information? We just share it. We just spread it. This kind of stuff. The more we're doing this kind of stuff, the more we are hurting ourselves with these kind of things. We become a person that we ourselves cannot rely on and other people around us cannot rely on. And that destroys self-esteem as well. It destroys the way you see yourself, the way you relate to yourself, the way you experience yourself. It can make that very, very negative. And this is an underlying thing. It's an underlying current. For most of us, this is not conscious. We do not notice that we're hurting ourselves. We do not feel that, because most of us are very busy mentally. There's a lot of movement in our attention, a lot of stuff that we do every day, a lot of distractions. We don't really notice the subtle ways in which we are hurting ourselves. By being dishonest to ourselves, to other people. By continuously trying to do stuff and then not following through. Starting projects, not ending them. And gradually, you will stop respecting yourself. And how do you notice that? You don't like yourself very much. You don't like your own company very much. And insecurity starts to become more and more strong as well. We have self-doubts. Am I good enough? Do other people appreciate me? Do they like me? Yes, no. And then gradually this insecurity reflects more and more in our actions, that we represent ourselves. Even the power of our words. When we say something, it might carry certain power or it might not. We all know people who have lied many times or just once. If they say something, there is a certain disbelief. Even if you meet these people for the first time, you don't really trust what they say. It feels like kind of weird or off. Is that really true what this guy is talking about? So you're not only just feeling insecure about yourself, you radiate it out. And other people pick up on it. And then they relate to that insecurity, very often pointing it out, making it worse, making it stronger. It's a vicious cycle. Having low self-esteem, being insecure, acting out the insecurity, other people react to your insecurity, feeds further into your low self-esteem. That is an internal cycle, whether you're relating to yourself or to other people. It is pretty bad. So how to deal with it, how to get out of a low self-esteem. I still remember, and that's also, I think it's a very cultural thing as well. There's this Tibetan master, Yongye Mingyur Rinpoche. He was talking once about low self-esteem, and he said, I've always had these people come to me talking about low self-esteem. I have low self-esteem, I don't like myself very much. And he found that very strange. In his culture, it doesn't really exist, this concept of low self-esteem. So he had to check it up, he had to Google it, he had to learn about it. And because it was so foreign to him, this idea of low self-esteem, he said that he had to practice it for a while to understand it. So he was, for a good time, busy trying to create low self-esteem. And he did that primarily by thinking negatively about himself. Thinking about himself in a negative way. So you can all experiment with that too. If you're thinking in bad ways about yourself, I can never do this. In the past I couldn't do it, therefore I will not be able to do it in the future. I'm not good enough, I'm ugly, people don't like me. Whatever it is, go for it, try it out. And you will notice the more you go into this direction, the worse you start feeling about yourself. In my opinion, this is good news because it also works the other way around. If you think about yourself in better ways, then you start feeling better about yourself. And I'm not saying that you should think about yourself, that you think up some fantasies about yourself. Like I'm the divine ruler of the universe. Because something inside of you doesn't believe that. It creates that split. And it doesn't matter. If you say it often enough, you start believing it, but then you start to become delusional. That's also not a good practice. So it has to go hand in hand with stuff that you can back up. For example, tomorrow I'll get up at 5 a.m., I'll do my meditation for half an hour. Then do it. Then immediately think in good ways about yourself. Wow, I did well there. You have to learn to notice that you did something well. But you also have to do things well. In other words, you have to do things to respect yourself. For a while I've been watching these casting shows where you have people come in front of like 3 judges, like a jury, and then they judge how you sing. And I found something quite incredible in these shows. There are people who with absolutely zero talent singing in a horrible way in front of these 3 judges, but thinking about themselves that they're the best. This is delusional. They don't know that they're not singing well. And our culture actually fuels that. Like like this kind of Western culture. And they say, you're great, you can do it, you're the best. You shouldn't say these things if this is not true. If you're not the best, no need to say that I am the best. Put it on your mirror, say it every morning, I'm the best, I'm better than everyone else, I can do it, I can do it. These positive affirmations, without having any backup, they just create a delusional entity. They work. And that can be the problem. Then you're there super confident about yourself, feeling extremely pumped, but with absolutely zero talent, zero skill. So you can talk yourself into a belief that you are amazing, but you also have to go hand in hand with backing that up, doing things that are amazing. And I think you don't have to do much, like big stuff, like amazing things, like saving the world. You don't have to do things like that, but like little things. Building a healthy sense of self-respect by following through with little projects, little steps. A kind action here and there, helping someone, responding nicely to a text message, encouraging people when you meet them and you feel they're down. This is stuff worthy of respecting. And you start with these small steps, doing small things, both for yourself and other people. And then you want to notice them. Then you want to reconfirm to your mind, here is what I did and it was really, really nice. It was really well. I'm respecting myself for that. I did well here. This works really well if you suffer from low self-esteem, if you don't like yourself very much. Do things, small things, that you would respect. Very often we respect those things when other people do them. Particularly if you're suffering from low self-esteem, you see yourself do something that you would highly respect in another being, but you cannot respect it when you yourself do it. Do you know that? Have you ever had that feeling? Like when someone else does it, you'll be like, wow, this is amazing, you did so great. But if you yourself do that same thing, you're unable to utter words of praise or kind of pat yourself on the back and say, yes, I did well here. So we treat ourselves pretty harshly very often, much more harshly than we would treat other people. So I've got to learn to soften up and kind of recognize what you're doing. And we're doing a lot of good things, all of us. It doesn't have to be extraordinary. The ordinary is often really powerful stuff. It's always the basics. If you do the basics really well, like little things, if you live for today and you make today a nice day, that's already very respectable. That's amazing. You do that step right now here, do that well. Everything else doesn't matter, really not. But that step right now, whatever you're doing right now, if you do that well, you're building quality. If you're building quality, you start to respect yourself. If you start to respect yourself, you start to feel comfortable with yourself. It's nice hanging around you. You feel like there's no disappointment, there's no discrepancy between what you think, what you say, and what you do. That is aligned. What I think is in alignment with what I say is in alignment with what I do. You have that aligned sense of self. It's very comfortable. It feels very honest. Doesn't feel heavy at all. But if what you say and what you think internally are out of alignment, it's a very tough existence. We have to project something into the outer world, the public self. Here's me being always spiritual and happy and nice, when actually I'm feeling pretty depressed right now, or unhappy. I've heard of a spiritual teacher who was on antidepressants. He was teaching meditation, was on antidepressants. It created quite a wave, as you might imagine, yes? How can this guy teach meditation when he himself is depressed? I think it's quite heroic, actually, to be that honest, that vulnerable. Because most of us struggle with stuff like that. We struggle with a psyche, with this vast inner ocean of possible experience. that we're all scared to look at because it's just so deep, so unpredictable. Anything could lurk in there. If I look within, I might find just anything. So most people are scared of actually looking at themselves and receiving themselves. Here I come to a second way of actually learning to be comfortable with yourself and build self-esteem. The first way, I think, is really by just doing things that you would respect. Inspire yourself, in other words. And notice it. So inspire yourself and notice it. The first kind of most basic way of building a healthy sense of self-esteem, self-respect. So let me come back to that one more time again. What is it that you respect in other people? What do you find admirable in other people when you see them?
Happiness.
Happiness, yes. What else? What do you respect?
Calm.
Calm. Yes. So, happiness or calmness, when you pick that up in other people, it gives you a certain feeling about them, right? It makes you feel like, that's nice. Kind of like looking up to that person. A happy person, a calm person, an honest person, an aligned person, whatever. You see that, it inspires you. Now, if you can be that kind of person to yourself, which mostly probably you already are, you're pretty calm. You seem pretty happy in a funny way. See, this is what we are respecting in other people. We embody it ourselves, but we're totally unaware of it. In fact, when I look at myself and I feel anything but calm, let's say I'm respecting calmness in other people too. It's the same thing, one quality. If I'm looking at myself, I feel like a hopeless mess. I'm not calm at all. I'm looking at my mind, I feel like, oh my God, that's just anything but calm. But probably other people would give me the feedback, Tobi, you're very calm. I've heard it sometimes. Now, when I hear that, what do I feel inside? They're just friendly. They're not honest. They don't really mean it. They just want to be nice. And so I smile at them and say, thank you very much. But inside I'm like, yeah, all right. I'm not calm at all. If you would just know my mind, you wouldn't say that. So this is because I'm not really respecting my skills. I'm not seeing them. I'm not actually aware of my positive qualities. That's widespread, by the way. Most people do not know their positive qualities. They know their negative qualities in abundance. Just like when we are looking around ourselves, what do we see most? We see the things that stick out. We see the spot on the wall. We see that one crooked thing, that piece of dirt in the corner. We see when someone misbehaves. Like every movie is based on a problem. Imagine a movie without a problem. I sometimes mention that, like it's a funny idea. Just the movie of a tree standing on a hilltop. And it kind of sways in the wind a little bit occasionally. But there's no tension in that for 2 hours. Just that tree. People will leave the cinema. What did I pay for? Looking at a tree for 2 hours. Actually, we pay for tension. We pay for the problem. The stuff that that stands out. You drive, the traffic, you see, and suddenly there's the accident. And everybody gets drawn to that. Everybody wants to look. What happened? Immediately captivates your attention, doesn't it? You see the accident. There's somebody lying on the ground, even some blood. The more it sticks out, the more we look, the more we're drawn to it. The negative. The positive or the neutral, not really. Not so much. Kind of, yeah, okay, that's nice. Even with big things that are amazing, yeah, it's nice. Like Bill Gates Foundation has donated, I don't know, millions of dollars to whatever. We're like, oh, that's pretty nice. And then Donald Trump has, and then we get outraged. And the outrage is much more vivid and tangible than that happiness that we felt when someone did something good on that large scale. Right? So it's the human psyche is very much geared towards the problem. And we do that with ourselves too. So watch out for that. Train yourself to see the good in you, because it is there in abundance. The more you see it, the more you feed it, the more it can grow. That doesn't mean that you see good which is not there, but you see the good that is there. And you want to make sure that you have detected it before you assert it and before you feed it. Otherwise you have that unskilled singer thinking he's the best. Yes? So you want to see that it's there and then feed into it. For example, if that unskilled singer would recognize his talent in singing, he might probably want to nourish it and go to see a teacher who can teach him how to sing properly and grow it and respect it, nourish it enough to give it that kind of attention, to expand it in that way. That's because he has recognized it properly. Otherwise it might maybe just be a way of suppressing his self-hate and thereby living it out in ways that are so grand that it's in front of an audience of millions of people who watch TV and who will then dislike that person. Maybe that's his program. Also, again, remember that the psyche works in that way too. It gets you into circumstances and situations very skillfully that feel like home again and again. That's why, for example, I was telling you last week about the neighbors that we've had. They were fighting and the guy was punching his wife. She would leave him, but she always came back many times, and that's a very familiar thing. We even called Pawina, which is a Thai organization that is there to protect women in that situation. And they told us, we were reaching out for help for this woman, and they just simply told us, if she doesn't get out, we can't do anything. She would have to come, and so we gave her the number, but she probably never called. Why? Why do we do that? Why do we hurt ourselves? Why do we find hurtful environments again and again? Because it's something that feels familiar to some aspect inside of ourselves that's very strong. Contemplate that. You always seek out the familiar. We all do it. We want to stay where we feel safe. That's the known. That's my comfort zone. Yeah. Here I know who I am. And even if it's a very unpleasant self-knowledge, even if it's very unpleasant, it doesn't matter, it's what I know. Some people have been abused as children. They seek the abuser again and again throughout their entire life. In their relationships, whether they go to work, they have this abusive boss. It just goes on and on. We find what we know best because it somehow rings true to our psyche, to our makeup, to our mindset. And so it's quite a bit of work to work on that level, to respect yourself by acting in uplifting, inspiring ways, by recognizing that that's a lot of work, but it's well worth it. It is well worth documenting, sitting down, having your spiritual diary, writing down your progress, really going into that in a scientific way. That can change the way you feel about life and yourself drastically, but it's a very gradual process. It takes time and a lot of effort. Now we come to the second way, to build self-esteem. It's a bit more direct. You can either identify with the messy psychological aspects which are within ourselves and trying to somehow identify with the skillful ones more than with the unskillful ones, thereby building power in a skillful direction. That's the first way. The second way is not identifying with aspects of our psyche, but identifying with awareness. So you're stepping back, you become the observer, and you find yourself more and more as the observer. So you re-identify, you shift back to that which is aware, which is watching. You get to know yourself on a different level of consciousness. And you're building your self-knowledge and your self-esteem based on that layer, not on the layer of duality where things are messy, they go up and down, there's good and bad, there's skillful, unskillful, positive, negative, day and night. But you start to become more and more aware of that element of knowing, mindfulness. So instead of feeling, I am like this or like that, like let's say I'm such an angry person, I'm unworthy of your love. Now I'm identified with the psychological aspect of myself. Now I learn to step back and I'm aware of it. There's a feeling sensation in the body that accompanies it. I see it. There are thoughts, voices that accompany it. I see them too. And in the beginning, this is really hard to make out the difference between seeing something or being something. But as soon as you start to make out the difference, even just so slightly in the beginning, you notice like, wait a second, how can I be angry when I'm right now looking at anger? But there's still so much investment in the energy of anger that it feels like you're very much still glued into the anger. You don't have that distance just yet. But with practice, more and more, you get to know yourself on a different level. The more you do that, the more you start to trust in this awareness. So rather than saying, I am whatever messy aspect of my psychology, I am aware. I see this. I can see this. And here's where real, true spiritual work starts. You start seeing yourself. And all the stuff that's there. And then seeing it consistently over a long period of time, again and again and again. As it is for me on my path, the way I practice is very much a slow progression from trying to solve my psychological problems on the level of the psyche itself, trying to somehow make the messy Tobi into a perfect Tobi. That is very much what I do instinctively. I feel angry, I want to fix it immediately. I feel like this impulse, I need to do something about this. I can't feel that way, that's wrong, I shouldn't feel that way. And so I immediately start doctoring around on that. Then there is an element that kicks in and says, no, seeing is enough. And over a long period of time, I did not really trust this. It was more like a kind of, okay, I can try. When I feel better, I will try to see it. I'll try to see it, try to look at it a little bit. So I looked at things when I was feeling kind of good and happy, but not when I was feeling really down. When I was feeling really down, I was just busy trying to get out of that hellhole. Okay? Over time, however, the confidence, the faith in that knowing quality, in that observing quality becomes so great that I can actually handle even strong emotions, even very tough ones, and I allow them to exist. I receive them as they are. And then something magical happens. They dissolve. They disband. Because there is a sort of a full acceptance of that. It's almost like it comes to you because it wants to be seen. And if you keep ignoring it, it'll come harder and harder and harder. It'll invade your dreams, it turns them into nightmares, it'll invade your memories, it will spoil your past, it'll invade your future, it'll turn into fear and hope. Because we're not dealing with these things, we're not really looking at them. And that's what they need. Your anger, your low self-esteem, all that is nothing to get rid of. It is something to be seen very clearly. And this is something we need to practice. It's not just something that comes to you, eureka, and you get it, and then you don't need to do anything anymore. You're kind of done. But it's very serious practice. I call that shadow work. You're actually working with what you do not want to work. The opposite of that is spiritual bypassing. Trying to avoid. Using all the technologies of spiritual practice to avoid your pain. To not look at it. And so it can't get resolved. What is pain? Any painful state, whether it is low self-esteem or anger or whatever, any painful state is an energy that has been split off, that's been cut off. It wants to be reintegrated into your wholeness. It's kind of like your child that's outside of the house. You're having your nice little Christmas dinner with your happy family of happy friends. And there is that dirty little child outside that wants to get in. It's been rolling in the dirt, it's smelly and stinky. It's been stepping into dog poo, it wants to come in. And all we see is the smelly dog poo. And so we don't let it in. Yes. You're not allowed in here. Guilt, shame, fear, whatever. Cannot. But underneath that, it's your child. Underneath the dirt, the mud, the poo. There's your child there. This is shadow work. Underneath the shadow or behind the shadow, there is light. And it conceals, the shadow's function is almost like it blocks off the light. So we're not creating a happy me. We let go of all the stuff that you're not. And we do that by reintegrating that energy into the wholeness of our being. We're not keeping it split anymore from us. We acknowledge that anger is just as much a part of us as happiness. Joy just as much as grief. What are these things? They're energy. They're pure, pristine energy, isn't it? Anger is energy. Now don't call it anger. Don't give it that stamp, that word, anger. It's bad. It becomes this moral thing. But see it for what it is. It's an incredibly powerful energy. What if you could re-own it? It would reveal its creativity, its sexual power, all of it, it's in there. The power of life is right in there. And as long as we're keeping it away from ourselves, we are not reintegrating it, we're shutting it out. Because I'm so spiritual, I shouldn't be angry. That process of blocking it out, of shutting it out, that keeps you weak. But if you're able to see it very clearly and you're allowing it to come in, then it can proceed to take a shower, take the shoes off, and come back into the family. This is with every energy that you're experiencing. There's a whole lot of moral stuff that comes on top of what we're experiencing, which is not true. It is fabricated by human beings. It is not a natural law. Many people, they, for example, connect sex with sin. Subconsciously, but it's something bad, something you don't talk about, something that you should not feel. You shouldn't feel these sexual feelings and urges that you do feel. So many people repress them, suppress them. It is something that we're not supposed to feel, so we do not know what to do with that energy. We have no idea how to handle it. Same with anger, same with hate. All the inequality, the anger that you see in the world right now, it's just people, they don't know how to handle that energy. What to do with this energy. Sadness, grief, depression, all that is energy that we have no idea how to handle. And then so we handle it from this very limited, fabricated moral background, like I shouldn't feel sad. How do I get rid of it? How can I suppress it? I should feel happy. How do I get happy? Maybe I should try some meditation. You get into meditation and you try to kind of meditate your sadness away. It doesn't work. It'll just pop up in another form, in another. These are primordial archetypal feelings that we all have in our psyche. They are the very basic foundation, the building blocks of your psyche. Sadness, anger, depression, fear, happiness, kindness. They are like profound building blocks of who you are. Trying to somehow manage them and push them aside is ridiculous. It's like trying to somehow manage the universe. It's a funny idea. So low self-esteem is just something, in fact, that wants to be seen. And so if you get better with your meditation practice, then that's your practice. If it is low self-esteem that bothers you most, then work with low self-esteem until it's been seen enough and the energy is reintegrated into your being. You re-own it, and you'll be surprised how many amazing things are behind it, behind low self-esteem. There's the gift of confidence in there, of being comfortable and at ease with yourself. And that's not just a gift that you yourself can enjoy, but everybody around you can enjoy it. As you become more whole, people around you resonate with that wholeness. It's a pretty amazing process. That's how you not only benefit yourself, but everybody around you with your practice. The third way of building the highest form of self-esteem, it is building no self-esteem. Realizing that there is no such thing as a self. That is the highest level. The more you start to rest in awareness, eventually, you're so stable in that you now can turn awareness onto itself. And you'll find, surprise, surprise, nothing there. There's nothing there. There is no me, no self, so no problem. No me that needs to become better or worse or what. There is no more problem because you have thoroughly understood that the self is fictional. The idea that we have of a me is completely fictional. That would be kind of similar like having that dream, and in that dream you have low self-esteem and you meet people who are constantly kind of abusing you in some way in that dream and fueling into that low self-esteem. Eventually you become aware of your low self-esteem. Or let's say the first level, you kind of try to work your way up in the dream. You create a better dream. Nice. Basic level. Good to do. The second level is you turn your light within. You're looking right at the root of the problem. So the dreamer becomes aware of the actual root of the problem and allows the energy to be reintegrated. And thirdly, you realize you're dreaming. And everything that appears in the dream, including your own body, the bodies of other people, it is made of one substance. It is mind. And in that mind, nothing is me or mine. You wake up. No more problem. Just the dream doing itself. But nobody in it. Just a universe doing itself. Nobody running anything. If you can come to that insight thoroughly and deeply, then your problems are solved for good. There is no more problem because there is no more owner of any problem. So that's the highest level. Start with the basic one. Inspire yourself. Do things that you find uplifting. Few things every day. Small changes, please. Not massive changes. You'll set yourself up for disappointment. Small stuff. Small things. What could you do today, after class, to inspire yourself a little bit? To build self-respect. What would be an amazing thing to do today? Something nice. You can all think of something and then do it. And then after you've done it, recognize it. Oh, here I did really well. Let's do some more of that. Just keep building that power. practice awareness, and eventually breakthrough to the third level. So all that is building self-esteem. Okay? So that's all that kind of comes to mind. That is a bit of an abstract topic, I feel, but still, I hope it was useful.